Hello, good evening, everyone, to episode 8 of the Recce Report. I'm your co-host. My name's Russ. I'm a former warrant officer of the British Army.
And I'm a former British Army Corporal, Cliff Purvis. And it is such a joy to be back on episode 8, Russ.
I know, who knew we would have lasted this long, mate?
Well done, Kevin, for persevering with us. Right, a month. Not an awful lot has happened again, and I have really been struggling to get a running order for the next half hour. I think, and I know we're running a couple of weeks behind everybody else's headlines on this one, but I do think we need to start with the Supreme Court decision.
Right, yeah, because that was after our last broadcast, mate, wasn't it?
Yeah.
It wasn't a surprise for me. Was it a surprise for you?
It wasn't. Towards the sort of last month of it, I was sort of running, depending on what time of day it was, I was flipping from one opinion to the other. But getting in towards the end, I was thinking that they would probably side with Westminster.
Yeah.
So no, and it wasn't so much a surprise, and it's certainly not a disaster as it's trying to be painted.
No, you're absolutely right, mate. It's sorry, excuse me. Yeah, I think it was a foregone conclusion that they were going to side with the Westminster cabal. It was clear that the Act of Union then was written to make sure that any attempt at breaking that treaty was not going to be in the purview of the Scots. And I think and that's the way we've got to move forward from. Whether a plebiscite election or not is the way to go. I'm not a politician. I'm not a statistician. I don't know.
No, and I'll add to that. I'm not a constitutional expert either. No, I think you're absolutely. It was something we needed to do. It's another tick in the box. I mean, no longer can Westminster turn around and say this is a union of equals. This is a voluntary union. This is a union by consensus. That does not happen if it is in the power of one particular part of that union to say yay or nay to. Well, let's be honest here. All we're wanting to do is exercise our democratic wish. The winning of a referendum is something totally different from actually getting to do it. Yeah.
And people forget talk about international precedent, but the UK it's completely unique in its setup. There is no other political union in the world that is akin to the UK, United Kingdom, or Great Britain and Northern Ireland.
Yeah,
England, Scotland, Northern Ireland, Wales. There's nothing like that. So even the Spanish independence question with their separatists, you want to put it, the Quebec question in Canada, is a completely different setup. So you can't even compare it. Although I do know that during the Supreme Court case, the SNP did intervene with a lot of Quebec-y stuff. So
yeah,
as I say, not an international policy expert, so I've no idea.
Yeah, it's actually strange you should mention that because there was a wonderful article written in an online magazine called The Atlantic way back at the start of this year that mentioned that about the UK. Since the fall of the Soviet Union and the fall of Yugoslavia, we're the only country inverted commas left that its name doesn't indicate what's contained within it. If you say Britain or the UK, well, that's not England, Scotland, Northern Ireland, or Wales. So we are in a very unique position, and I think it's something we needed to do, get it ticked off. I read very briefly today someone saying it was better getting the Supreme Court decision when we did, rather than going for a vote, having a vote, and then being turned round after a successful vote saying it's illegal. because that would have been very nasty and probably incredibly nasty consequences as well. So yeah, it's not the end of the campaign. It's just one door's shut and another door is open. And the wonderful thing is, of course, the door that is shut is that one that the RUK wanted to leave open for the world to view into. The one with the regal lion standing on top of the white cliffs of Dover, stoically defending democracy, the poor old woman and everything else. We are now locked in a union that certainly does not have democracy at its heart.
Yeah, and maybe that was the tactic. Maybe we had to have that Supreme Court case in order to say to people, look, they've been pretending for so long this is a union of equals. Look, we've tried to do it this way, and it's clearly not.
Yeah,
it's clearly not. No one that's ever gained independence or a break of a political union from England or the UK has ever got it by asking permission.
No, and we're in a fortunate position here because the favoured tactic of our UK of smashing up the printing presses, arresting the ringleaders and fixing bayonets and issuing the Riot Act, they can't do. So we have got them that. And also, I'm still of the opinion that our UK have not got to grips with social media yet. Yeah, I really don't think they understand the significance that the newspapers, their propaganda outlets, do not have the impact north of the Rio Tweed compared with south of it.
Yeah, and I think somebody said that to me earlier. The Daily Mail, the Daily Express, or something, they posted some like 64 articles about Harry and Meghan over the last couple of days. And absolutely nothing about cost of living, all that sort of stuff. And it almost is. It really is. It's the bread and circuses, mate, that the Romans did. It's the football and betting and beer thing that Orwell talked about in 1984. It really is, because when they're saying look at this, what they're really saying is don't look over there.
Yeah. Whilst a certain baroness and her husband disappears over the horizon.
Yeah, I know, bloody hell.
Yeah.
It's fun times, mate, isn't it? Where he's got a yacht and disappeared.
Yeah, it would appear that we're looking at the wrong boat. We're looking at those little ones crossing the channel where we should be keeping our eye on the bigger ones.
Yeah, right. Definitely.
Yeah, so the Supreme Court then, I think that will play into our hands. It's certainly not the end of the world, and that I think has been emphasised by the fact that we've had a reshuffle of the SNP MPs down in Westminster, roles to do, and you don't see the way it was conducted. Yeah, it was announced. And then it was done, and then it's moved on.
Yeah.
Unlike the way the Tories did it, there was, you couldn't hear the sharpening on knives.
Oh yeah,
there was words may have been said, but
so Ian Blackford's moved on, and I wonder if that as I say, I'm not privy to the inner machinations of the SNP, but I wonder if this is part of the tactics for a new way forward. Younger faces in there, Stephen Flynn is Westminster leader, and Mary Black, shy, retiring, always sitting on the fence, Mary Black.
Yes, Mary's listening, and we jest. We absolutely know what you're capable of, and we've probably got an inkling what you are actually going to aspire to be. Yes, and already certainly with Vary, she was ripping into the Conservative and Unionist Party, or sorry, the party formerly called Conservative and Unionist. I think they're more the new UK fascist party.
Oh, they're UKIP rebranded, UKIP BNP. I think someone put it up. The BNP manifesto from the 1970s would not is effectively equal to the the 2000 late 2010s Tory manifesto, isn't it?
Yes, absolutely. So Vary was there, and she was, they're hounding them now. They're hounding that front bench of the government, asking, look, demanding to know, not so much asking, demanding to know what is the legal route out of the union for Scotland. Yeah, what is the legal route? And they're being stonewalled. The government is either not answering or waffling, wasting auction and altogether not saying that much in the process, which is good. Which is absolutely.
But you can see why they're doing it. Yeah, they're doing it because the SNB have been in power in Scotland for 15 years now.
Yep.
That's unprecedented, right? Because the Westminster model shows you that what happens is they get 8 to 10 years in power, get so corrupt that they get booted out, and then the next lot come over and the pattern repeats. Yeah, Tory Labour, Tory Labour, Tory Labour. And they can't quite grasp the fact that people keep voting for the SNP. It's driving them to distraction, mate. That we have these elections, council elections, Scottish elections, Westminster elections, and how bloody uppity jocks keep voting for the SNP. How dare they?
Yeah, and you got to remember, we're doing all this with still only one national daily newspaper in favour. Of independence, and one Sunday paper in favour of independence. Effectively the same paper. It's the National. Considering way back in 2014, we had 45% of the vote.
Yeah.
Surely, I mean, to my overly simplistic mind, surely that should be reflected with the publications. Then it should be reflected on the TV news, but it's not. We have this one paper. I mean, we never even had that in 2014. But nowadays it's one daily paper, one Sunday paper in favour of independence, and still, as you quite rightly pointed out there, still the SNP MPs are being returned in huge numbers to Westminster, and we have that SNP government in coalition with the Greens. But that, bear in mind, is the setup in Holyrood, and it's a perfectly legal system. The two systems that are in operation, but it's designed there to stop this majority government that we did have in 2011.
Well, the first 8 years of the Scottish Parliament was a Labour Lib Dem coalition. If you remember, your man David Steele was the
presiding officer.
And that's how it went. So the first 8 years it was Labour and Lib Dems.
Yep.
And then SNP flipped it in 2007, did the unthinkable, got in.
Yeah.
And they're doing what no one expected them to do, which was to actually govern not too bad. And I do laugh, and it's fine for people to point at the SNP government and say they're not perfect, and they're not. Of course they're not. But the reason people keep voting for them is that generally people know they're not perfect, but they have an idea that Labour and Tories will be worse.
No.
So that's why they're not offering a viable alternative. That's the problem.
Yeah, and again, they can't get their head around that one, because all they're doing is everything that is done or achieved or run by the Scottish government is automatically slated. Automatically they attack it regardless of what it is, and yet the people on the ground, us lot, the voters, the people that actually matter, we're actually seeing, well, it's not too bad. And I keep going back to the NHS. Last, when was it, after I had a knee operation done in last December, I ended up back down at A&E in Edinburgh, New Royal Infirmary, and the guy that seen me, it was a German doctor, he couldn't praise Scottish NHS high enough. And he was sensible. He said, look, it's not perfect, but it's better than what else is out there. So when these people are forced to look at the league tables, and probably calling that a league table is a poor thing to say, but the examples of how NHS, Northern Ireland, Wales, England, and Scotland, how they're all behaving like for like. Scotland comes out on top every time.
Oh, of course they do. And you were saying before, mate, they announced, was it today, yesterday, that the nurses, the Scottish nurses, have accepted the pay offer, so there's no strike action. And I think James O'Brien mentioned it on his show, and and he basically said, how can Nicola Sturgeon sit down with a nurses union and Rishi Sunak can't? And some bright spark wrote, because she's just doing it to mess with Westminster. And you're like, all right, yeah, by purposely being a better, a better first minister, a better leader of the country than Rishi Sunak. Well, one, that's not a high bar, to be fair, but it's what needs to be done. You know what I mean? It absolutely is.
It's the art of compromise, and it's something the Conservative and Unionists don't know what to do. It's part of their breeding. I'm sure it is. They are taught from a very young age that they are better than everybody else. They know better than everybody else, and what they say should be dictated down and complied to. And that's well, let's face it. You mentioned how low the bar was with Rishi Sunak. I mean, Liz Truss before that, the pound shop Trump before that. What's his name again? Oh yeah, Johnson.
Somebody just pointed out on the comments that Unison and Unite have dropped strike action, but the RCN are still to decide.
Right. Okay.
Thanks
for that update. Cheers for that, guys.
So thanks for that. Much appreciated. Hopefully they'll follow suit.
Yeah. I think the RCN, sort of the College of Nurses and Midwifery, have suspended strike action. Depending on what the outcome was. So
maybe
that's again, it's the Scottish government. Who's that? Evelyn. Evelyn, myself and Russ were having a wee chat before we came live on air, and we actually talked about this, about Lord Foulkes making the Scottish government deliberately making the services better.
But they're doing it on purpose. That's the problem.
Which really does actually bring us back to just how wafer thin the union is. Sooner or later, the sausage factory that is the public school education system was going to run out of talent. Sooner or later. They've always had down in Westminster one or two political leaders. Now, I might not have agreed with their politics, but they were leaders. They haven't got that now.
No.
There is no one at all sitting on the government benches that you would put in charge of a balloon stall at a gala day event.
But can we blame them, mate? Because let's be fair, people voted for Johnson, and he made no secret of the fact that he was a bumbling buffoon. We've known that for years. But people voted for him, same as people voted for Trump in America. So who's to blame? Are we blaming the politicians, or we have to blame actually what's happening to us? And the truth is, we are being influenced. We're being influenced by media. We're being influenced by targeted ads. And the beauty of propaganda is that if you know it's happening, it's not propaganda. So people argue that they've made up their mind, but the truth is, your mind was made up for you.
Yes.
It absolutely was, and it's the hardest thing to admit that you've been fooled.
And I think that's what's now coming across the voters up in the north of England. The traditional Labour voters, that they were absolutely suckered in with Johnson. The promises of this wonderful Brexit thing, and the Tories have just this week gotten themselves in trouble because of their wild, inaccurate statements about the 800 million pounds worth of trade post Brexit. 534 of that, or something along that lines, was actually continuation in the EU deals that we had. That Evelyn, that's absolutely spot on. It was.
It is. It was get Brexit done, and then no one thought to ask, but what does that mean?
Yeah, you're sitting there. I mean, the Europeans just couldn't believe it. I mean, I've been fortunate.
It was lifted straight from it. Was "Make America Great Again" for the Brits, wasn't it? Get Brexit done. It's a meaningless slogan that tells you nothing whatsoever.
Yeah,
It really is.
backed up by that other one. It's oven ready. Yes, Johnson, it was oven ready, but you forgot to switch the oven on.
Yeah. No, absolutely. It's and I think that's the thing. I genuinely think that Scotland, and I don't like to generalise, but Scotland does seem to be a little bit more politically savvy as a nation, I think, than most of England.
Yes, I think 2014 taught us that one.
Yeah,
the lead up to 2014.
That's not to say there's not politically savvy people in England. I just think they're outnumbered massively.
Yes, I think you're absolutely spot on with that. What a lot of people, I think the majority of people in Scotland now do when a story breaks is, first of all, who's breaking the story, what else is going on at this moment in time, why are they doing it on a Friday, so we all forget about it by the Monday. And of course we've got all the independent platforms that are broadcasting the truth. It's not the truth as spun by the propaganda outlets, Rupert Murdoch and co. As you mentioned.
I
mean, all you need to do is look at. You're absolutely right what you said about Harry and Meghan, and I'm no great fan of the royalty. But jeepers, what they're doing to them two is unbelievable.
Yeah,
and it's little wonder that they're fighting back, because it's in their makeup, it's in their genetics. Those two that they won't take anything lying down.
No, so they ignore the big stories. It's distraction. Look at this. Don't look up. Don't look behind the curtain.
Here's a cute little kitten.
Yeah, it is. It's the 2-minute hate. Here's who you should hate today.
Yeah.
And let's not forget the Daily Mail. I think I'm right in saying we're very kind of pro brown shirt back in the day.
Oh, they were. Yeah, the Mail and let's get this one right. Mirror, I think.
Yeah.
Were absolutely all over the extreme right wing in the day back in the 30s, right up until the whole invasion of Poland thing.
Yeah. And it was like, oh, maybe we got that wrong.
Yeah, there's a wonderful thing. I was doing some searching on old propaganda styles, propaganda posters from the Empire type of thing, and there's actually a letter. I think it was written into the Mail, and it was by someone living in one of the coastal towns in England, right? And he was complaining about all these out of work Jews flooding in from Europe.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was 1936.
Oh, absolutely, mate. This whole justified war, like most things, was a post hoc justification.
Yeah.
Up until mid 1940s, we were turning away boatloads of refugees, as were other countries. And it was only after it when we found out the complete horror of what happened. It was that rewriting of history to say, we were always the good guys.
Yeah.
No, we weren't.
Yeah. Well, I think we accepted the children, but didn't accept the adults.
But even then, there was people complaining about it and writing letters to the papers, saying, coming over here, taking our jobs.
Exactly, and it sounds also familiar to what's now. Yeah. So very little is new under the sun, is it?
Yeah, my pet hate, mate, is when people say we should look after our homeless veterans first.
Yes.
And I always reply, mate, you didn't give a shit about the homeless veterans before the refugees, so don't pretend to start now.
Yes, don't use us for your own political gains, please.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I'm being polite there, Russ.
I try so hard not to swear on these, mate. I do.
Yeah, yeah. Right, we're into our last 5 minutes, buddy.
We are, mate. That's gone quick, mate, isn't it?
See, this is what happens. Right,
so I
so
think. Sorry, go on, mate. I
yeah,
think
no,
you're
I was
gonna
going to
jump
say
to
this is
something.
our last one of the year.
Yeah.
It's been absolutely fantastic getting the opportunity to pop up on
Yeah.
these things.
Yeah. So yeah, episode 8. That's 8 months we've been knocking these out, mate. People have been tuning in. We seem to get quite good feedback. Obviously, this works better, as you've noticed tonight, when you leave comments that we can respond to, or
Yes,
or make fun. We've not made fun of anyone tonight, so that's a change.
no.
But yeah, no, thank you.
Yeah.
But I think a good thing to finish off with, mate, is the recent opinion poll.
Yeah, let's guess right, Ipsos.
Yeah, the Ipsos Mori opinion poll done for ITV, I believe, wasn't it?
Yeah, STV. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think once you exclude the don't knows, got us in at 56%.
Yeah, which is amazing.
That's absolutely
It is. And we've got to capitalise on that. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think it shows that we're starting to convince people. I think people are always convinced.
Yeah.
2014 was, it was a narrow victory. I'm not a fan of conspiracy theories, but when they start talking about silent majorities, I start getting a little bit kind of like, well, where did they come from? It's almost like it's like the invisible pink unicorn, mate. You can't prove it's not there.
Yes.
You're like, okay.
There's a dragon. Yeah, there's a dragon in my garage.
Yeah.
Where is it? It's invisible.
Yeah.
All right.
So I think the fact that people are being a bit not just vocal, but they're polling that way as well, which is absolutely brilliant. And it'd be nice to see how that goes with the capitalising on that. And maybe the SNP had a bit of an advance notice of some internal polling that shows that that maybe a change of leadership down at Westminster was a good way to go.
Mm-hmm.
To be a little bit more, I don't know, dare I say, a little bit more obstreperous, a little bit more, rather than the bombast that Ian Blackford was really good at.
Yeah.
Maybe they're going to start being a little bit more, surreptitious in their means.
I would love to think there is planning going on there, and as always, we will never be privy to all the inner workings, and personally, I can live with that. It's not, it's not something that bothers me, because I think the fact that we are sitting in 2022 towards the end of it now, with a majority of people indicating that they would vote for a Scottish independence, is an absolutely fantastic thing, and it's something that every single campaigner for independence should be feeling absolutely proud about.
Yeah. And as much as you talk about once in a generation, which is garbage, 2023 is 9 years, mate. 9 years since it. And given that a generation for an all island border poll is 7 years, we're already over that. The precedent's there.
Yeah, Hansard. Is it Hansard? The publication. Down in Westminster, records a generation politically as 7 years.
Yeah.
So we're absolutely in there. This is your 2-minute warning, Russ.
And there you go, mate. Now somebody's pulled up that other poll that we mentioned prior to broadcast. The other poll shows 53% for independence and SNP over 50%. So that was that second one. I don't know who did that.
Yeah,
that's why we didn't mention it, because we weren't sure who put it together, but we know the Ipsos one. So 2 polls in the trot, and if that's repeated, I mean 2 polls don't a trend make, but it's a nice start.
Imagine if they'd gone the other way.
Oh, we'd be fighting all over it.
Yeah. And the fact they're not shows they're worried.
Yeah.
Right. We are down to our last minute, Russ. You want to say your farewells, buddy?
Well, mate, I think I'd like to just thank everyone for the opportunity for reaching out and for interacting with us and allowing us the chance to do this. To Kevin, who works so hard behind the scenes to put these things together. And if you can, Independence Live, if you can help them out, make a donation, do whatever you can. They're completely self-funded. They put so many of these things together. They need as much help as they can get. And if it wasn't for them, the veterans wouldn't have got together to do this, and so many other places. So yeah, if you want to do something nice for Christmas, have a donation to Independence Live. And I want to wish all our viewers, all two of them, not aware there's more, a very Merry Christmas and a very prosperous New Year.
I completely echo those sentiments from Russ there. And I'd also like to close out the last Recce Report before Christmas by wishing all our forces currently deployed a safe deployment and a speedy return to your loved ones. To all those on duty at the various ships, shore bases, RAF stations or barracks over this period, have a safe one. But as Russ was saying there, and I've just hit the microphone, I'm sorry, Kevin. But finally, a huge thank you to all the Forces community and the wider Yes movement that have contributed to keeping the campaign for independence front and centre of our political landscape. And remember, our future is bright. Independence is right.
Hear, hear. Take care, everyone.
Cheers, guys. Whoops,